Hi guys, welcome back to Chess to Matthew. So on this video, we'll tackle about the Sicilian Najdorf on the Opocensky variation. So the setup meaning start with the moves of e4, c5, and after knight f3, d6. And after d4, c6, d4, knight x d4, the open Sicilian. And after knight f6, knight c3, and the significant move to the Najdorf variation of the Sicilian defense is the e6 move that both defend any knight b5 hop or even bishop b5 hop on the b5 square. So here the Opocensky variation of the Najdorf Sicilian start with the moves bishop to e2 and with the move e5, in which we shall see in this position now that this pawn attacks now the knight on d4, and after a retreat of knight to b3, here comes now the simple bishop to e7, vacating the f8 square and allowing the black king here to castle on the king side. So on this video, we will tackle about the game between Nikolay Novotelnov versus Tigran Petrosian, in which the solid Tigran Petrosian here used the Najdorf variation to beat his opponent. So going back, for example, from the set opening, after e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c6, d4, knight x d4, knight f6, attacking the pawn, and after knight c3, defending the pawn. And for example, after the moves of a6 and bishop to e2, e5, knight b3, and bishop to e7, Nikolay here castle now on the king side, and Tigran Petrosian here do the same after kingside castling. And the white here tries now to crack down the center with f4, but Tigran Petrosian here is popular from a solid player, and he defended with knight b to d7, and any capture to this e5 pawn will lead for the black here to have a strong knight on the e5. So Nikolay here plays queen to e2, trying to reroute his queen to the king side so that he can now start an attack. But the black here plays b5 and tries to counter now on the queen side, trying to kick this knight out from the defense to his e4 pawn. So the white here defend with a3, but the black here is very consistent to pressure now the e4 pawn. And we shall see in this position now that it only has one defender versus two attackers. So Nikolay here defend with bishop to f3, and again we have three defender now as white on the e4 pawn. But after rook to c8 with an intention maybe to remove this defender so that later on the e4 pawn will drop. But Nikolay here just sidestep his king to save square on h1, but there is simple rook to a8. The idea here is after the rook here controls now the e-file, the black here will simply retreat his bishop and tries to capture the f4 so that later on this pawn will have three attackers on the board, and maybe at some point he can pressure it with d5 because of the fact that the queen here is in line to the file of the rook. So the white here sidestep his queen because he actually saw that idea. So after bishop f8, the white here plays bishop to d2 and connect his rooks, but it is not enough here for the white because there is now a freeing move for the white, which is d5, freeing his bishop here and again pressurizing the e4 pawn. So after knight takes to d5, but it allows here for the white to capture now the independent pawn on c2. So Tigran Petrosian here capture now the c2, and the white here starts now to collapse after f takes to e5, because Tigran Petrosian here simply grab the knight first, and after a takes d5 and knight takes e5, Nikolay here plays knight to d4, trying to have an f5 square for his knight or even to attack the undefended rook, but there is a simple knight to d3. The idea is to attack the queen and again attacking also this pawn. Nikolay here chooses to grab the rook, but again it is too much for the black here. After knight takes to f2 check, and after rook takes f2, again the pawn on d5 falls, and after bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, we shall see on this position now that the black here has an extra piece from the exchanges. So the white here tries to regroup his pieces after bishop to c3, but Tigran Petrosian here tries to control now the second rank after queen to c4, and after rook a to f1, trying to win the pawn on the f7 with only one defender versus two attacker. But the black here simply defend with the move f6, and after rook to d1, again with the idea of this queen to c4, Tigran Petrosian here plays rook to e2 and trying to attack these pieces. And after a couple of moves of b3, Tigran Petrosian here plays the winning move after queen to e4, because the white here resigned, and in just 26 moves the black here wins through resignation. So going back after e4, c5, knight f3, d6, d4, c6, d4, knight takes d4, the open Sicilian, and after knight f6, knight c3, e6, the Najdorf variation, and after bishop to e2 and e5, the Opocensky Sicilian of the Najdorf variation, and after knight b3, bishop e7, Tigran Petrosian here enables to win after kingside castling, and after f4 with an accurate defense from the e5 with knight b7, and after queen to e1, b5, a counter attack with the idea of developing his left square bishop to pressure the e4 pawn, and after a couple of moves after a3, bishop b7, f3, rook c8, again with intention to grab this knight to remove the defender from the e4, and after king h1, but Tigran Petrosian here is very solid, and he finds another way that after rook to a8, king f2, and bishop to f8, he sees that after the captures on the f4, again it opens up the e file, and again it pressures now the e4. So after bishop to d2, instead of capturing, he finds another way, and after playing d5 and knight takes d5, rook takes c2, f takes e5, and knight takes to d5, a takes d5, and knight takes e4. On this position, the white here actually totally collapsed on this position. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to subscribe.